Hello, everyone. Welcome to Language Journey, the podcast where we explore the ups and downs of language learning. I'm Alex, your host.
And I'm Sophia. Thanks for having me on the show, Alex.
It's great to have you here, Sophia. I know you recently made a video about why people struggle to speak English despite years of study. It got a lot of attention from our listeners.
Yes, I called it Why You Can't Speak English, and I shared my own journey as a non native speaker.
That's what I loved about it. You weren't just giving tips, you were speaking from experience. Can you tell our listeners a bit about your background?
Sure, I'm originally from Russia, so my native language is Russian. I've been learning English for many years, but I still remember how frustrating it was to study for so long and then freeze up in real conversations.
That's something so many of our listeners can relate to. What do you think is the biggest challenge for English learners, Sophia?
Well, there isn't just one challenge. There are several. In my video, I broke it down into four main barriers that stop people from speaking confidently.
Let's go through them one by one. What's the first barrier?
The first big challenge is simply the complexity of English itself. For example, my native Russian is a Slavic language, while English has Latin roots. This creates fundamental differences in how the languages work.
Can you give an example that might help our listeners understand?
Think about vocabulary. Many English words don't have direct translations in other languages. Or consider homophones, words that sound the same but have different meanings like eight and eight. These can be really confusing.
I never thought about that. Even as a native speaker, I take these things for granted.
Exactly. And the grammar can be tricky too. Even native speakers make mistakes with complex grammar rules.
Speaking of mistakes, I've heard native speakers say things like would have ate instead of would have eaten.
Yes, that's a perfect example. And more safer instead of just safer. It shows that perfect grammar isn't actually necessary for effective communication.
That's a really important point. What's the second barrier you identified?
The second barrier is psychological. Many learners have a fear of judgment. They feel like others are mentally recording all their mistakes.
Oh, I've definitely felt that when trying to speak Spanish. I get so nervous that people will laugh at me.
That's performance anxiety, and it's very common. When we're too self conscious, it's hard to communicate naturally. And then there's perfectionism. When we focus too much on being correct, we don't practice enough.
How do you suggest people overcome these psychological barriers?
Remember that the goal of language is connection, not perfection. In my professional life, I've worked with non native English speakers from companies like TikTok, and we focused on understanding each other, not on perfect grammar.
That's such a healthy perspective. What's the third challenge you mentioned in your video?
Pronunciation. English pronunciation often breaks its own rules, which makes it incredibly frustrating.
Can you share some examples?
Sure, look at the letters EA. They're pronounced differently in bread, steak, and steel. Or think about silent letters in words like island and castle. Why is there an S in island if we don't pronounce it?
I never thought about how confusing that must be. And then there are all the different accents and regional variations, too.
Exactly. British English, American English, Australian English. They all have different pronunciations for the same words. It can be overwhelming for learners.
What about your fourth barrier?
The fourth challenge is cultural differences. Language isn't just words and grammar, It's also about understanding cultural references, humor, and social norms.
That's so true. I remember trying to make a joke in Spanish once, and it just didn't translate well at all.
Yes, humor is especially difficult to translate, and many learners worry about accidentally saying something offensive because they don't understand the cultural context.
Did you experience this yourself?
Definitely. But I also found that cultural interest can be a powerful motivator. When I fell in love with Mexican culture, my Spanish improved rapidly because I had a genuine connection to the language.
That's fascinating. So, passion and interest can help overcome these barriers?
Absolutely. When you care about connecting with people and their culture, you focus less on making mistakes and more on communication.
I'm curious, what learning methods do you recommend based on your experience?
Different strategies work for different people. Some learn best through conversation practice, others through reading or listening. The important thing is to find what works for you and not get discouraged by comparing yourself to others.
And how important is it to aim for perfect English?
Not as important as most people think. Remember those native speaker mistakes we talked about? They show that the most important thing is communication. I have met non native English speakers who communicate more effectively than some natives because they focus on simplicity rather than complexity.
That's so encouraging to hear. What would you say to someone who has been learning English for years but still gets stuck when trying to speak?
I'd say you're not alone. This is a common experience for language learners everywhere. Embrace your mistakes as part of the journey. Each error is actually a sign that you're trying, which is better than staying silent.
I love that perspective. Any final advice for our listeners?
Find reasons to love using English beyond improving your English. Connect with people, explore interests, and watch shows you enjoy. When language becomes a tool for connection, rather than just a skill to master, speaking becomes much more natural.
That's wonderful advice, Sophia. I think our listeners will take comfort in knowing that their difficulties are normal and that perfection is not the goal.
Exactly. And remember, even after years of speaking English, I still make mistakes. But I don't let that stop me from connecting with people like some English learners.
Perfect. And for our listeners who are working on their English, remember that this podcast is designed for English learners at different levels. We try to use clear, natural language that's accessible to everyone.
And don't worry if you didn't understand every word. The important thing is that you're practicing your listening skills right now.
Exactly. Well, that's all we have time for today. Thank you so much for sharing your insights, Sophia.
It was my pleasure, Alex. Thank you for having me.
And thank you all for listening to Language Journey. Remember, language learning is a marathon, not a sprint. Keep practicing, stay curious, and be kind to yourself along the way. Until next time, bye bye. The first word is despite. It means continuing to do something even though there is a difficulty or problem. For example, despite the rain, they played football. It means that they played football even though it was raining.
The second example is she went to work despite being sick. It means that she went to work even though she was not feeling well.
The second word is take for granted. It means to expect something to always be available or to not appreciate the value of something because you're so used to having it. For example, don't take your health for granted. It means that you should appreciate being healthy because it might not always be that way.
The second example is He takes his family's support for granted. It means that he doesn't appreciate how much his family helps him because he's used to it.
Now, challenge. It means a difficult task that tests someone's abilities or skills. For example, learning a new language is a challenge. It means that learning a new language is difficult and tests your abilities.
The second example is she likes challenges in her job. It means that she enjoys difficult tasks that test her skills at work.
The next word is to aim. It means to point or direct something at a target or to have a goal you want to achieve. For example, he aims to finish college next year. It means that his goal is to complete his college education next year.
The second example is she aimed the camera at the bird. It means that she pointed the camera in the direction of the bird to take a picture.
The last word is to overcome. It means to successfully deal with a problem or difficulty. For example, she overcame her fear of flying. It means that she was afraid of flying before, but now she isn't afraid anymore.
The second example is they had to overcome many obstacles to finish the project. It means that they faced many problems but managed to solve them all to complete the project.